have a gentleman who is a fine, fine poet. I've seen him performing many times in open mic nights around Dublin, and he's got quite a back catalogue of poems, and I'm really glad he's down here to perform a full set this evening. I know he's got a lot of friends in the room, so will you please give a massive, massive welcome to Mr. Sean Ruane.
I saw in an approaching stranger's face the fine-drawn, darling features of a girl I'd loved in college. Full lips, arched brow, brown eyes that mirrored my straining and my squinting incredulity as we waltzed our way as if on castors towards one another. It hardly struck me if she'd changed that much, though she must have. Time had crumpled and folded back onto itself like her yellow scarf. For the few minutes that we ranged and squabbled over and rearranged, the autumn lived together and the decades spent apart. You've got a memory like a sieve, she said. Later, I wondered if this looming mug had simply shocked her in its grizzled state, or if it still retained some of that boyishness from the days when our affections at full gallop had shied at the first high gates of commitment. But since I'm not the sort to spend my nights undergoing by windows the metallic and meticulous surgery of moonshine, or one to sift through memories of hair, tawnied and winnowed by an evening breeze and the cornfield loving light of September, to curious mates I just laughed the whole thing off. Evidently she had no regrets. I said she was far too happy to see me. What about you, they asked. Regrets? Regrets are what the French discuss over baguettes and filtered coffees and unfiltered cigarettes. Carol here was saying that you were a polite audience, you were an attractive audience. I've been here for 3 hours, I see none of that. Disgrace. You come in, you're ordering drinks, everybody's ordering drinks with ice just to make sure it makes extra sound. Now, next one, this is audience participation time. I read the poem and you shut the fuck up and listen. No. Okay, this poem is called The Cattle Grid. After the raids by driven sheep and cattle on his lawn, the neighbour dug a neat pit at the entrance to his property. "I'll keep him out," he said, as he bricked the edge and laid an old 5-barred gate down on it, yards from his cottage. "Don't do things by halves." The neighbour never did. That summer, hedgehogs fell and rotted in his dark cage, calves broke legs and children crashed their bikes in it. Neighbours of his, in that close-knit village, speculated and pondered on the grid and what lay under or between its staves, while he stood at dusk, right foot on the bottom bar and arms folded, looking down with pride on the rolling acreage of his kingdom. Power cut. There was a power cut in the southeast of County Meath in the same hour my father breathed his last of twilight and July. I flicked the light switch, automatically at first as I reached his room for candles, but then deliberately and repeatedly as my eyes adapted to the gloom. Okay. That's the old phrase, happiness writes white. It's a problem for me. I know a lot of writers have had very, very difficult childhoods. I had early years that were very happy, almost idyllic, and so I had to try to invent traumatic things that happened to me. By far the most traumatic thing that happened to me was the day that our telephone number was changed from 6 digits to 7. Oh, you may laugh. I don't think I've ever got over it. And so this is my poem. It's called 255242. You laugh at my pain. 255242. 255242. A balanced phrase, synonymous with home and days of perfect length, an unencumbered sound estate. This easily remembered line of poetry, hidden in a huge tome, could spell me back from lusting spoke-filled hallways to the oak desk and the cast iron chair. Evoke my name for old friends anywhere. Its incantation was auspicious, always. 255242. But even while the apparatus slumbered, the banns were being read, robotically intoned by electronic clerics of the telephone, announcing that its days as a single entity were numbered. Soon it must stand preceded by an 8. I took it badly, I admit. How strange that loss is often preferable to change, that love's less blind than unrequited hate. 8255242. My palindrome, my beautiful caesura, the dactyl swallowing anapist. All of its poetry ceased to exist with the lumbering arrival of that extra and primordial figure. As when you met your childhood sweetheart with her fiancé. And her voice had that syncopated rhythm. Engaged, she said. Do ring. Now you can't get through on 255242 without that fucking cipher in the way. And yet, you're still reluctant to leave it. Some people take their phone numbers with them when they move house. I can well believe it. I've probably written about 75 or 100 poems in 20 years. My problem is getting the inspiration for them, or getting sufficient inspiration for something I think is worthwhile. Once somebody suggested to me that I write, I started writing poetry about my own personal flaws and shortcomings. And I have found therein an inexhaustible supply of material. Next poem is Correctional Facility. It's in the form of a villanelle. Same lines keep occurring. When my only goal was avoiding mistakes, pride and perfection were gods to be assuaged. For my and everybody else's sake, the cutting room floor must have no outtakes, and the wastepaper basket scrunched up page. When my only goal was avoiding mistakes, I bet with matchstick pittances for stakes, held down the job with the steadiest wage for my and everybody else's sake, and learned to distinguish authentic from fake by using my own self-calibrated gauge, when my only goal was avoiding mistakes, but caused, ironically, so much heartache, struggling alone through imprisoning rage for my and everybody else's sake, refusing to countenance any jailbreak, although I held the keys to my own cage, when my only goal was avoiding mistakes for my and everybody else's sake. The poem's called Credit, or Credit for the Latinists here. He believes. For 15 years he's told himself that every coin he finds, down lanes, in streets, near a gutter, is a gift from the hands of his late brother. I wonder if he hoards a mound of the metal messages in an emptied spirits bottle, or a goldfish bowl perhaps, bloat with copper and the odd arresting flashes of silver. One's loose change is another man's treasury after all. But this is not a numismatic tick or haunted reverie outbid collector's share for a proof set, a rare commemorative or die variance, nor is it wild craving for the herd's opiate. While laymen marvel at his expert eye, between those siblings, fate and serendipity, the mites and pennies drop, relinquished cents, marks, yen, silver dollars, all from Terry. Woo! Thank you. I'll do one more if that's okay. I really want to thank my friends for showing up tonight. It's very, very moving and humbling that you all showed up. I know I did promise I'd put 100 quid behind the bar. I didn't do that. I will. All right. Poets are cowards. Somebody was discussing with me, I am anyway, somebody was discussing with me their idea of how they wanted their funeral to go. I was nodding along, thinking it was, you know what I mean, agreeing with everything they said, that it was a fantastic idea, even though it involved a tour of Ireland, and I mean, it caused so much trouble to everybody else who was going to be left behind. And so I agreed to their face, and the second they were gone, I wrote a nasty poem about them. Right? You know what I'm talking about. It's called Last Gasp. Military coordination of a schmaltzily choreographed bloodfest. It's more about the here and now than the hereafter. With serried mourners, perfectly rehearsed, goose-stepping solemnly behind the hearse as it wends its way through black, unfurling banners, to the decked chapel with the strict seating plan, where adagios, chosen by the undertaker's best friend, who moonlights as a wedding planner, accompany the representation to his maker of a much-respected, well-beloved man. The eulogies from kith and kin and priest were written years before by the deceased. Directions for separate burial of the heart, a catalogue coffin in chrome and hickory, curriculum vitae as an epitaph. To speak on one's own posthumous behalf, pathetic as a chained ghost's, vain control freakery, or a statesman hoping to master the art of governing the future from the past, is exhibitionistic to the last. Yet people seem uneasy when I say I've chosen to accompany me on my last journey. Not mournful uilleann pipes or muted drums, but she'll be coming round the mountain when she comes, played on spoons by men wearing lederhosen, and my will read in Latin by an attorney, leaving each and every potential beneficiary scrambling in the attic for an old school dictionary. But if they've banned maracas from our cemetery, and the council's just cut down my favourite apple tree, I leave the arrangements to those who love me most. Let others talk about me, warts and all. They can't say anything about my stay I haven't thought myself. May the anecdotes gain legs, and the night end with a few stalwarts clinking glasses, agreeing to disagree on yet another conclusion. Thank you very much.